Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode in our Patreon and YouTube exclusive members only neck through online workshop. Gosh, that's a mouthful. I probably should come up with something better to call that, but I'm not going to do it right now. So if you are watching our live streams, you know already that I have a bunch of neck through SG shape instruments going right now, and there's about to be a bunch more because I'm doing all the advanced work for the May SG Ultimate SG workshop, and maybe I'll even show you guys some of that stuff as I get to going, because what I have done since we started this process or this project, gosh, it might have even been like early last year or late last year or early this year. I honestly can't remember. But if you've been watching, you might go, well, wait a minute, Matt's not doing the same thing as he did in the original video series. And I've come up with some new tools and some other stuff to make my life easier for me to do the advanced work for the May 2025 Ultimate SG workshop stuff. In any case. But I thought let's catch up where we let's pick up where we left off with our actual online workshop, and that is to get this guy a little bit further down the path. Now we have a few things to do. We have to angle the headstock. We need to drill the tuner holes. We don't need to drill the tuner holes, but I think it's just easier to do now before we get the fretboard glued on. Certainly we need to clean up the fretboard, the little fret nubs. So I'm going to do that with you guys, and we need to put a truss rod in here, and we need to glue the fretboard on. Anyway, let's jump in. I'm here at the pin router because the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to establish the angle on the headstock, the top of the headstock. So if you're making one, you can just sort of draw it out, cut it out, and sand it to the best of your ability, either using just a block sander even, or heaven forbid a hand plane. I used to do this on my my jointer. You can do that, or you can use a sanding a belt sander, or even a great big disc sander would work. But because I'm doing a bunch of these, I built this tool, this sled. This is a 7-degree sine plate that I built many years ago, and so we're going to use this. Now you could probably just do the whole thing on the pin router, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of grind to where I get close, and then I'm going to go over to the bandsaw and rough cut the rest out, and then come back to the pin router and clean it up. You might be wondering, how are you so sure that you're getting it back in exactly the same place as before you took it off? Remember the alignment pins that are in my neck? I just pushed the alignment pins all the way up to this block here, and I should be really close. Drifting a little bit. come back a little ways, and if I was really, really smart, I'd put a great big bit in my pin router. And since I have to do a bunch of these for the upcoming workshop, I may do exactly that right now. All right, I don't know if you can see this, but I've went from a 1/2-inch cutter to a 1-inch cutter. So I have doubled the amount of productivity I have. Mercy, there's sawdust everywhere. All right, now what I'm going to do, gang, is I'm going to mark where my tuner holes go. Now you can do this any way you want. You can measure and draw lines and stuff, but I have a template for this headstock, so we're just going to use the template. Okay. So I've got where my tuner holes are going to go, the position. Now I'm going to mark them with this punch, and we're going to put it back in the sled that we used to cut the headstock angle, and go over to the drill press, and we're going to drill 6 perpendicular holes to the angle. Now, if you don't have this sign plate and you're going to go old school, you're going to have to drill these holes perpendicular to the headstock eventually. I would advise that once you get your neck carved and the back of your headstock shaped to be parallel with the top of the headstock, then it's considerably easier to take this over to your drill press and hold it on the bottom, which is now parallel with the top, and you can position it so that you're perpendicular to the drill bit. Okay, but because I have this sled, we're going to use this sled. Yuck. Ugh. All right, so as you can see, I've got everything ready to go. I've got my 10mm drill bit in my drill press, and I'm just going to drill 6 perfectly parallel holes. I'm not going to go all the way through. 1, because I don't want to damage my sign plate, and 2, I don't need to, given that my headstock is considerably thicker than it will eventually be. That does 2 things. 1, doesn't ruin my sign plate. 2, I can drill all the way as deep as I need to go, and then when I shape the back of the headstock, or thickness the back of the headstock rather, any tear out that I would have gotten if I go all the way through is a non-issue. Whoa. So there you go, 6 holes, didn't go all the way through, good to go. I don't know if you guys saw, but my drill press was really laboring right there. This 10mm bit is getting old. In fact, I've had this bit probably for about 8 years. I couldn't tell you how many tuner holes I've drilled with it, but maybe it's time to get a new bit. All right, we're gonna do one more thing, and that is we're gonna clean up the fret ends before we can glue the fretboard down to the neck blank. For some reason or another, a really popular segment to a for everybody video that I did recently was me tuning up the ends of the frets on this edge sander. And you know, that's one of those things where I think I said in the video that I got the idea from an episode of that How It's Made show, and they were at the Godin factory, and they would start with the frets like this, where they would overhang, and I think they were already, the fretboard was on the neck and etc., and the frets were in there, and they just shoved the whole thing in there, or they had a robot that did it. And I'm like, well, that seems pretty neat. It wasn't until many years later then I thought, well, I'll just get this, I'll fire up the old edge sander here and do it. So I am not going to tax my edge sander to do something that I can do with a set of these StewMac fret end snips. So we're going to cut it as close as we can here, and then we'll clean up everything on the edge sander. I use a 120 grit belt on my edge sander to do this. Somebody was like, man, I should probably get one, but I don't think I would be comfortable using 120. I get that. The thing about it is that my 120s are pretty dull. and remember, you're not grinding off that much material. The trick is to go to where you're just almost touching the board. Okay, so let me see if I can speed this whole process up here, and we can show you all how to do this. Okay, just a few more to go. And I know that you guys have probably already started experimenting with yours, so I don't need to show you how to do it, but I thought I would do it anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to let my, it's actually quite a bit easier to do when there's no neck and it's just fretboard. So really all we're going to do is we're just going to press this up against the edge sander and let it grind it away. I think I might move my camera and zoom in so that if any little bits of fret start flying around, I run less of a risk of damaging the camera. Okay. All right, so I know I told you I set it on the table and go, but the bottom of this belt is pretty much dead, and I've got a little patch of good belt up here. So really, I just kind of get it up there and run it across. What you can do, and in fact what I recommend you do, is kind of hold it at a bit of an angle. Instead of flat like this, hold it at an angle. That will lessen the likelihood that you're going to start hitting the lumber, and will help you establish the chamfer on the end. Now, I'm not suggesting this is going to completely eliminate all the handwork, but it's going to make less handwork.